The world began with a shiver. It was a cold place, a narrow alleyway filled with long dark shadows and the scent of rain-soaked stone. Here 2 small lives flickered into being. They were brothers, born to a stray queen who vanished as silently as she had appeared. The firstborn was a bold splash of ginger fur, a tiny flame against the grey concrete. He was strong and curious from his first breath. His brother followed moments later, a sleek shadow of pure black, with eyes that held the deep green of moss. They were alone from the start, but they were never truly lonely. They had each other, and in the sprawling, dangerous city, that was everything. They were a tiny clan of 2, a secret whispered between forgotten buildings. They grew quickly, their days a flurry of kitten games. They would chase each other over piles of discarded boxes, their paws silent as falling leaves. The ginger cat, whom we shall call Ember, was the hunter. He would stalk dust bunnies and fallen leaves with immense seriousness, his tail twitching with focus before he pounced. The black cat, whom we shall call Shadow, was the watcher. He was quieter, more cautious, his green eyes missing nothing. He would sit perched atop a rusted bin, a silent guardian, making sure no danger crept near while his brother played his daring games. Their bond was forged, not in words but in shared warmth and unspoken understanding. Surviving was a constant battle, a lesson they learned with every passing day. Hunger was a sharp claw in their bellies, a gnawing ache that never fully went away. They learned to be clever, to follow the scent of food, to overflowing bins behind noisy restaurants. Ember was fearless, darting in to snatch a dropped morsel, while Shadow kept watch, his sleek body tense and ready to sound a warning. When the rain came down in cold, hard sheets, they would find shelter beneath the rusted frame of an old car, pressing their small bodies together. The world was big and loud and scary, but the steady beat of a brother's heart next to theirs was a shield against the fear. The nights were the hardest, the darkness brought strange sounds and the glowing eyes of other bigger cats who saw them as intruders. One night, a large tomcat with scarred ears cornered them, his hiss a venomous sound in the quiet alley. Ember, despite his small size, stood his ground, arching his back and letting out a defiant spit. But it was Shadow who saved them. He darted behind the tomcat, a silent wraith, and swiped at his tail. The surprise was enough. The big cat spun around, confused, giving them the precious seconds they needed to scramble away into the safety of a narrow drainpipe, their hearts pounding in unison. They learned that together they were stronger than any fear. One morning, when the air was crisp and smelled of autumn, a new presence entered their world. It was a woman with kind eyes and slow, gentle movements. She did not shout or shoo them away like the other humans. Instead, she knelt down, keeping her distance, and placed a small bowl on the ground. The scent of fish and gravy, rich and wonderful, wafted towards them. Ember, ever the brave one, crept forward cautiously, his nose twitching. Shadow watched from the safety of the shadows, his body a tense line. The woman made a soft, cooing sound, a gentle rumble that was not threatening. She simply watched, her hands still, as Ember took his first hesitant bite of real food. She came back every day after that. She never rushed them. She just brought food and her quiet, calming presence. Slowly, so slowly, the wall of fear began to crumble. Shadow started to emerge from his hiding places, his green eyes fixed on the woman. He saw the way she smiled when Ember rubbed against her legs, purring like a tiny engine. He saw that her hands offered only gentleness. One day she brought a soft blanket and a carrier. She spoke to them in a low, soothing voice, her words like a warm current. Ember, trusting and bold, walked right into the carrier. Shadow hesitated for only a moment before following his brother. He would not be left behind. The door closed, and their world of cold stone and hard survival was left behind forever. Their new home was a place of impossible wonders, It was warm. The air was always warm. There were soft surfaces everywhere, plush carpets that tickled their paws, a giant sofa they could climb, and sunny windowsills perfect for napping. The constant gnawing hunger was gone, replaced by bowls that were always full of delicious food and fresh water. They no longer had to fight for every scrap or fear the coming of night. The woman gave them everything they needed, her gentle hands stroking their fur, her voice a constant comforting murmur. They were safe. For the first time in their lives, they could truly rest. They explored this new territory with wide-eyed awe. Every room was a new adventure, every piece of furniture a mountain to be conquered. Ember loved to chase the red dot of a laser pointer, a game that delighted the woman to no end. Shadow found his favorite spot on the back of the sofa, a high perch from where he could watch over their new kingdom. They would still wrestle and play, but their games were different now. They were softer, without the desperate edge of survival. At night, they would curl up together on the woman's bed, their purrs a rumbling duet of contentment. They had found their sanctuary, a place where they were loved, and their bond as brothers deepened in the warmth and safety of their forever home. Peace, however, is a fragile thing. As the seasons turned within the warm walls of their home, a shadow began to fall over Ember. The once vibrant ginger cat grew quiet. His energetic pounces became slow and tired. He spent more of his day sleeping, not in the sunlit spots he once loved, but in quiet, dark corners. The woman noticed it first. Her kind face creased with worry. She took him to the vet, a place of strange smells and cold tables. When they returned, the worry in her eyes had deepened into a quiet sadness. Ember was sick. It was a deep sickness, one that no amount of warmth or good food could chase away. Shadow knew something was wrong long before the vet's visit. He could feel it in the way his brother's fur felt, in the shallow, weak purr that was once a mighty rumble. He did not understand the woman's quiet tears or the small pills she tried to hide in Ember's food, but he understood pain. He understood that his brother, his protector and playmate, was fading. His own playful spirit seemed to dim in response. He stopped chasing the laser dot and spent his hours pressed close to Ember's side. He would bring his favorite toys and drop them near his brother's nose, a silent offering. He would even push his own food bowl closer to Ember, hoping to tempt him to share his strength. The bond between them grew even stronger in these difficult days, a fierce protective love in the face of the encroaching darkness. Shadow became his brother's constant guardian. He would groom Ember's ginger fur with gentle licks, trying to soothe the tremors that sometimes shook his frail body. When Ember was too weak to climb onto the bed, Shadow would sleep on the floor beside him, a solid, comforting presence through the long nights. He never left his side. He was a silent sentinel, his green eyes filled with a deep, sorrowful understanding. He was trying to hold his brother here, to anchor him to this world with the sheer force of his love and devotion. One evening, as the sun set and painted the room in hues of orange and gold, Ember stirred. He lifted his head and looked at Shadow, his eyes clear for a moment. He managed a weak purr, a faint echo of his former strength, and touched his nose to his brother's. It was a final goodbye, a last shared moment of warmth. Then he laid his head back down, and with a soft sigh, his breathing simply stopped. He passed peacefully, wrapped in the love of his brother and the comfort of his home. The room grew silent, the only sound the soft ticking of a clock on the wall. The vibrant little flame that was Ember had finally gone out, leaving only a profound and heavy stillness in his wake. In the quiet that followed, a deep confusion settled over Shadow. His brother was still, but he had been still before when he was sleeping. Shadow nudged him gently with his nose, waiting for the familiar twitch of an ear, the soft sigh of breath. But there was nothing. He nudged him again, harder this time, a small questioning meow escaping his throat. The silence that answered was vast and terrifying. He began to search the house, a frantic edge to his movements. He checked under the sofa, behind the curtains, in every sunbeam and every shadow where Ember might be hiding. He called for him, his cries growing more plaintive, echoing in the empty spaces of their home. The days that followed were a blur of grief. The house felt too big, too quiet. Every corner held a memory, a ghost of his brother's presence. He would see a flash of ginger out of the corner of his eye, and his heart would leap, only to fall again when he realized it was just a sunbeam on the wooden floor. He lost interest in food, in play, in everything. He would often be found sitting by the door, waiting, as if Ember had just stepped outside and would be back any moment. The woman watched him with a heavy heart, her own grief mirrored in the cat's profound loneliness. She tried to comfort him, offering special treats and gentle strokes, but his sorrow was a wall she could not seem to penetrate. She would sit with him for hours, speaking softly, her voice a gentle balm on his wounded spirit. She didn't try to force him to play or to eat. She simply shared his silence, letting him know he was not alone in his sadness. One evening she found him sitting on the windowsill, staring out at the star-dusted sky. He was looking at the same moon that had once watched over them in their cold alleyway. The woman came and sat beside him, stroking his sleek black fur gently. She said nothing, but her presence was a comfort, a steady anchor in his sea of loss. He leaned into her touch, a small rumbling purr finally starting in his chest, a sound of sorrow, but also of a tiny, flickering hope. The pain of losing his brother would never truly disappear. It would become a part of him, a quiet ache in his heart. But as he sat there, bathed in moonlight, with the woman's comforting hand on his back, he was not entirely alone. The bond he shared with Ember was a cord that could not be broken by death. It lived on in his memory, in the lessons of survival and love they had shared. He looked up at the sky, at the countless stars, and felt a quiet whisper on the wind, a faint echo of his brother's purr. He was a clan of one now, but he was loved, and he would carry the memory of his brother with him always.